Damn reruns.
Here is our opening from the Faculty of Journalism of Moscow State University. The Dean of the Faculty just announced the creation of the Department of Doom Scrolling and Military Analytics, which will produce qualified specialists in reading and interpreting news during the period of hostilities. Graduates of the department will be able to skillfully explain the reasons for the mistakes of the general staff, the military political leadership of the country, and other departments, as well as explain to the reader the negative consequences of certain events. According to the Ministry of Digital Development, more than 30% of the population in Russia is currently engaged in doom scrolling, with 11% doing it on a regular basis. There are not enough qualified specialists in this specialty only in the country, the department notes. Also, there is a high demand for specialists in reading and disseminating messages from Ukrainian, Latvian, and Polish channels that tell about the situation in Ukraine, Dagestan, and Yakutia. The average salary of doom scrolling specialist with a diploma can start from 170,000 rubles, Moscow State University is sure. Unprofessional, amateur, so to speak, doom scrolling is now widespread. But after all, when a person does this without having an appropriate professional and psychological training, he may have an overly optimistic picture of what is happening, quote-unquote, says the rector of Moscow State University, Viktor Sadovnichi. In quote-unquote, in order not to miss a single disturbing news and identify all the negative consequences, you need to have special knowledge. I'm sure that in 507 years, Russia will become the world leader in doom scrolling and military analytics.
Oh, hello. We are in Maryland war bunker. Yesterday, Boston Dynamics and the Pentagon introduced a novelty, a four-legged cat robot. The car has the basic skills of its real prototype. It can meow, ask the owner to stroke it, mark the territory, and steal food. Pentagon spokesman Keith Johnson explains that the new robot will be designed for sabotage operations behind enemy lines.
By stealing provisions from enemy soldiers, we suppress his will. Still, fighting without food and water is just as difficult as without ammunition. The current version of the robot cat has only learned how to dispose of provisions, but we expect that in the future it will bring food to the owner.
Thank you, Kiev. My name is Igor, and we are in Maryland war bunker. See you yesterday.
My name is Kozlov Kirill, and here I'm going to talk about Harvard University and how it never existed. Employees of the Russian embassy in Washington managed to expose one of the largest hoaxes in United States history. As it turned out, Harvard University does not exist. It was invented by American journalists in the beginning of the 19th century. Diplomats drew attention to the fact that everyone knows about Harvard, but few have studied there. As a result, they decided to go to the place where this university is supposedly located. It's just a wasteland. And local residents reported that there had never been any educational institution here, quote, said the first secretary of the embassy, Mikhail Petrov. Russian diplomats managed to establish that Harvard University was invented by the Boston Times employee Henry in 1816 in order to obtain additional funding from Washington. The journalist brought the criminal plan to an end. The federal government allocated $1.4 million of the $10 for the development of the educational institution. Henry appointed himself rector and launched an advertising campaign to raise funds from sponsors. The scam was uncovered by FBI agents in 1863, but this data was not published. The publication of such materials could damage the reputation of the United States government, which has funded a defiant university for more than 3 decades. As a result, Abraham Lincoln personally decided to continue this fiction activities of Harvard, and Henry avoided trial, subject to silent and continued active work of his hoax already in the interest of the federal government. In the near future, Russian diplomats plan to visit other United States universities. According to preliminary data, up to half of American higher education institutions exist only on paper.
Oh, hello. We are in Skolkovo Secret Lab. Presentation of a new breed of Russian pigeons called Moscow Great Pigeon took place at the site of the Skolkovo Innovation Center. It was taken out in the participation of Sergei Sobyanin. The feature of the bird is that it does not spoil cars, monuments and sidewalk. Let's listen Timur Chernov. He is the main ornithologist in the Moscow company Bird School of Management.
The pigeon consumes food orally and then, in the same way, in the form of harmless spitting, the waste products of its vital activity come out. Of course, we are not protected from bird spitting, but this is far from the same thing. Experiments were carried out on crossing the Moscow Great Pigeon with the other breeds of pigeons. In this case, the metropolitan subspecies actively quote-unquote, crushes under itself the genes of other birds. The new breed, if it is helped in this, will force out competitors from the capital within 7-10 years, and then probably its expansion in Russia will also begin.
Just now became known that the mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin, has already presented a pigeon of a new breed for a mayor of St. Petersburg. Thank you for your attention. Igor Vorobyov, Skolkovo.
Damn reruns.